Hello and welcome to Dugout Debrief. I'm your host, Chris DeLuca. This is Boom Broadcasting's one, first, and only baseball-centric podcast, and we are once again back here in the month of May 29th to be exact, on this fine Thursday afternoon. There aren't many games happening today, but there's plenty to cover here this afternoon. We had two major injuries and three notable retirements, as well as our disappointing teams we'll be discussing. Last week we did teams that are exceeding expectations, and this week we're doing the most disappointing teams. I will tell you that the list of disappointing teams is a little bit shorter because you're not going to make every single last place team disappointing. We didn't expect the Colorado Rockies to be a good baseball team. We didn't expect the Miami Marlins to be a good baseball team. We didn't expect the Los Angeles Angels to be a good baseball team, as they just suffered a sweep to Jason's New York Yankees, which we will be discussing the Yankees a little bit here in the near future, but obviously not in the disappointing aspect or realm. So, with that being said, Alex Bregman was placed on the IL after suffering initially labeled as right quad tightness. So it was upgraded to a quad strain. It was in the first half of the doubleheader. The second game was rained out. Alex Bregman was called it, saying it's worse than I thought, and Alex Cora rather calling it significant. So that's never a good sign when your manager and the player who is injured is saying that, especially with a guy who has a work ethic like Alex Bregman. Bad for my fantasy team. I know that I've hemmed and hawed saying that I'm going to get a fantasy related episode. If that's actually going to happen, we'll see. We will at some point. I'd have to figure out a format for that in the near future. But my fantasy third baseman suffering another injury. Just adding to laundry list as my fantasy season is kind of just unraveled here. Whatever we are now, 7 weeks into the season. So we hope Alex Bregman has a speedy recovery, and from a former Houston Astro to a current Houston Astro, Ronald Blanco will undergo Tommy John surgery, and this is a really, really big hit to an already struggling Houston Astros pitching rotation. He had a 4.10 ERA, and he was honestly the second best pitcher in the rotation behind Hunter Brown. Houston has struggled pitching wise, bullpen and starting. So not a good time for Houston, a team that's already underperforming, a team that we did kind of think was on the way out, but it's just not been good for those Astros, especially when it comes to the pitching realm. Moving on to some better news, some guy recovering from an injury. Ronald Acuna Jr. returns to the Atlanta Braves roster. He hits a home run in his first pitch that he sees post-injury off of my guy, Nick Pivetta. Again, we love it because, I started him in fantasy against Atlanta because he's been really good. But we do love to see Ronald Acuna Jr. back and healthy. Baseball is fun when Acuna Jr. is healthy. And just got a cat running around. I apologize about that. Chris Taylor, who was DFA'd last week by the Los Angeles Dodgers, was picked up by the Los Angeles Angels. He stays in Southern California. He has a 1-year, $760,000 contract, and he made a great play in Game 1 in Anaheim against the Yankees in center field. I think that was in the 8th inning or so. Yankees, of course, sweeping the Los Angeles Angels as they get ready to head to Dodger Stadium for this very big weekend series, a World Series rematch, which we will be talking about in our series of the week. I'm hoping to see Chris Taylor succeed with the Angels. I think it's a good spot for him. The utility man can really play anywhere. And moving on, speaking of the Angels have DFA'd Tim Anderson, which is just really crazy to see. Honestly, a fall off like Tim Anderson. It's kind of sad to see. He was viewed as a next face of the game, 2-time All-Star, a Silver Slugger, and he won a batting title, which I think a lot of people forget that he won the batting title in 2019 with Chicago. Left Chicago after 8 years, Miami, and then the Angels, and just not what you're expecting to see, such a quick fall off, especially with the bat. every time he got signed, whether if it was the Marlins or the Angels, I was just hoping that he would recover. I think that he was a flashy player and he was really good for the game, but maybe he'll get picked up again, maybe a minor league deal. Maybe he can work his way back up to the MLB. Kind of a random news, but speaking of the White Sox, we sort of talked about them with Tim Anderson. Fantasy standout, or fantasy streamer, rather, Adrian Hauser signs with the Chicago White Sox on a 1-year, $1.35 million deal. Tarek Skubal continues his dominance after his Cy Young Award win last year. He continues his dominance with his first complete game shutout against the Cleveland Guardians, a division rival. Best time to do it, honestly. 9th inning, only 2 hits, just crazy. 0 runs. And here's the most impressive thing before we even get to the strikeouts: 0 walks. And that is what is the most impressive. You never see that, even in complete games. 0 walks, 13 Ks. And I want to say it right here on Dugout Debrief, here on 529, that Tarek Skubal will pitch a 20 strikeout game within the next 2 years. I think he will join that elite club, join Max Scherzer in that elite club. And moving on to those notable retirements that we talked about at the top of the show. Cole Tucker, a former first-round pick by the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2014, announced his retirement. He played for the Pirates, the Rockies, and the Angels. They used my immaculate grid a few times. Maybe another segment I'll add to the show. Who knows? We'll see. Jake Diekman also announced his retirement. He played for the Mets, the Phillies, the Rangers, the A's, the White Sox, the Rays, the Royals, the Red Sox, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. 3.91 career ERA, and he had a heck of a breaking ball, a heck of a slider. We wish him a happy retirement. And then finally, and most notably, a 2-time All-Star in 2013 with the Milwaukee Brewers and 2018 with the Seattle Mariners, Gene Segura also announced his retirement this week. He played for the Brewers, the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, the Angels, and the Seattle Mariners. And something I didn't know, guys, is he led the league in hits in 2016 with 203. And finally, just some notable acquisitions. Orlando Arcia was picked up by the Colorado Rockies, the former Atlanta Brave, and Sean Newcomb, arguably one of the most hyped pitchers in the Braves organization at once. Here about 10 years ago, he was viewed as the next prophet when it came to how hyped up he was. He is acquired by the Oakland, Las Vegas, Sacramento A's. So that's the news of the week here on Thursday, and we're going to be getting into the most disappointing teams here today. And number one is going to be undeniable, and that is the Baltimore Orioles. The Baltimore Orioles have a 19-36 start. They fired their manager, and here's the big reason why they're struggling. The bats are struggling. See, the thing with the Orioles is their rotation was always kind of questionable. We knew that going into this year. That's why this atrocious start doesn't really surprise me. I mean, Charlie Morton is your ace. Charlie Morton is statistically one of the worst pitchers in the league with a 7.9 ERA. He's 1-7, leading the league in losses, a negative 1.1 WAR. Zach Eflin, negative WAR. Kyle Gibson, negative 1.2 WAR. Dean Kramer, Chris Povich, just all of them not doing great. Even Felix Bautista, the electric closer, taking a step back with a 3.78 ERA out of the bullpen. It has just not been good for the Baltimore Orioles and the pitching rotation. But here's the big reason why they're not doing well is that a lot of guys are just taking steps back. Adley Rutschman is only batting 206 right now. Jackson Holliday is off to a struggling start as well. Better than last year, but still, I still think they called him up prematurely. And then Cedric Mullins as well, not doing great. Just even if these batters are being sustainable, they're not playing at an elite level. And to make up rather for that struggling pitching rotation, you need to be having electric hitting. And that's why the Orioles are really, really struggling right now. And out of all the teams we're about to talk about, which I do want to mention one thing here, that we will be talking about three teams that are represented by three members of the Boom Broadcasting family. We will be talking about Aaron Schneider's Kansas City Royals next. I do feel bad about that. But yeah, so Kansas City Royals moving on. Moving on to the Kansas City Royals, they are off to a 30-27 start, and that's not horrible necessarily, but it's a challenging division. It's a challenging division, and with Chris Bubich, who has been off to a fantastic start, I want to say here right now in Dugout Debrief that I think that he is going to potentially win the Cy Young. He's 5-2 and a 1.45 ERA, and he was like a seventh round pick, something like that at once. So we love to see it. Just that rotation still remaining really, really respectable, all mid threes in the ERA. Bobby Witt Jr. at a 2.7 WAR so far, off to a great start, leading league in doubles with 21. But the thing is with how competitive that division is, you have to you have to play at an elite level. You really do have to play an elite level on all grounds because you have the Twins in front of you, you have Cleveland in front of you, who made the ALCS. So yeah, and I do want to debut this kitten here. So far, the leading naming candidate is Schroeder. So if you do hear a scream or a meow in the background, that it is him as he tries to climb my back. Please don't. But fair warning, this is a menace to society. So we have a little guest in the studio here, co-host, whatever you want to call him. Moving on. We have the Texas Rangers. We have Michael Davis's Texas Rangers, 27-30 start. Weak division, but geez, just Marcus Semien is absolutely struggling this year, especially from the batter's box. He has a negative WAR, negative 0.4 WAR, batting 173, just not great, having arguably one of his worst career years after his crazy good year with a 7.7 WAR in 2023. Horrible batting average, not doing great from the field, grounding into a lot of double plays. Already just you can't be doing that at a major league level, especially with how much his contract is. Garcia has not bounced back. Adolis Garcia has not bounced back whatsoever. And with how great this pitching rotation has actually been with Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, and Patrick Corbin weirdly bouncing back, especially. That's the one that was really not on my bingo card. That was not. I honestly thought that guy shouldn't even been still in the league. Nathan Eovaldi with a 4 and 3, 1.56 WAR. Tyler Mahal, too, doing really good. I kind of forget about him. 1.64 WAR. Jacob deGrom, WAR. ERA. Geez, what are we talking about today? 2.42 for deGrom ERA. And then weirdly, again, Patrick Corbin, who I didn't even think deserved to be on a major league roster, 3.75. Yeah. Well, just how weak this division is, more is being left to be desired. I had the Rangers winning the AL West kind of out of default. I thought Houston was going to take a step back. I thought Seattle didn't invest enough in the bats, but Seattle's 30-24. And when you're 3 games under 500, you're not in a good spot. Rangers basically just kind of mirrored the other way as Aaron Schneider's Kansas City Royals, rather. So 4.5 games back overall. Could be worse, but still, you have 2 really not competitive teams in that division. You have one team that's on the way out, and then you have one team that I'm not really sure what they're doing. So overall, I expected more out of the Rangers. There's a lot left to be desired. And then finally, to conclude this disappointing list, we have Podcast Smitty's Atlanta Braves off to a 25-28 start. And all I can say is, meh, to quote Lisa Simpson. Healthy, but not flashy. Matt Olson is healthy. Ozzy Albies is healthy. Austin Riley as well. All of them are playing together, and you have the reacquisition of Ronald Acuna Jr. But like we said last year, the Atlanta Braves don't look like that flashy, great Atlanta Braves team that we know and love. And that was the thing, is they were hurt last year. This year, they're healthy. And the biggest reason that I think they're not doing well, as is with Most teams this year on this disappointing list so far is the pitching rotation. Chris Sale obviously taking a step back, a 3.36 ERA, 2-3, much worse than his Cy Young Award last year. And then you can't forget about Bryce Elder having a 5 or almost a 5 ERA. Just not doing great. And Rasul Iglesias, by the way, statistically one of the worst closers in baseball, with a 5.75 ERA and 4 losses already, almost a -1 WAR, -0.7 WAR. So the Atlanta Braves are a weird team because they are struggling. They're not terrible, but you expect more out of them. You expect them to contend for that division. You expect them to contend for a World Series with all that talent there. But you really have to expect more out of Chris Sale. You have to expect more out of that rotation, more out of that bullpen. And I want to give a little call here. I think the Atlanta Braves would be wise if they went after Mason Miller, even though he is having a step back year, a young second year closer. You could get a lot from him, especially when you have a farm system like the Atlanta Braves and you have a team like the A's that's really hungry for a a really good farm system, more and more prospect to go take to Las Vegas if they ever actually go to Las Vegas. So we'll see. With that being said, that is our most disappointing teams. And I really want to say that I think every single team on this list could potentially get back in except the Baltimore Orioles. I think the Orioles are done. I hate to say it, but I think Baltimore, that might be it for them. I think it's too late. I think with how good that division is, when you have a really, really, really good Yankees team, a Red Sox team that when they finally get healthy and play right is going to be great. And then finally, you have a Rays team that is always willing to surprise. I think there's just too much in front of them. Baltimore, I think it's over. I hate to say it. Everyone else, though, I like their odds. Moving on to our series of the week, and we have obviously the biggest blockbuster so far of the year. Our weekend series, we have the Yankees at the Dodgers. It's a World Series rematch, and I do not believe in grudge matches. I do want to say that in the regular season, at least in the playoffs, maybe, but Texas at Toronto, obviously, was a big one. If you remember, you remember. We swept that. We swept that odor out and all that. That was a fun series about 10 years back. But this means much more for the Dodgers than the Yankees, if you ask me. I mean, the Dodgers have really struggled, dropping 2 out of 3 to the Mets. Not performing great against Cleveland, losing I think like 9-2, something like that. 5-5 over their last 10, and only a 2-game lead over San Diego. It's a lot closer than it looks. Then you have the Yankees, who are 7 games up on Tampa, and they're 9-1 in the past 10. So I think this means a lot more for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 1, we're going to see Max Fried versus Tony Gonsolin. Max Fried, obviously being the Yankees ace, 1.29 ERA this year. Tony Gonsolin off to a kind of slow start with a 4.68. Game 2, you'll see Will Warren versus Landon Knack, bullpen game guy. And then the Sunday matchup, which will be the big one, Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus to be determined. But again, I think that the NL West has been a slugfest, and the AL East is really good, but not as good as we expected. So I think this means a lot more for the Dodgers. You're playing against a good baseball team. That's really what matters. You're playing against a good ball club. So I digress. And we have the Battle of Missouri, too, next. A lot of people are going to call me crazy. This midweek matchup. This Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday game. What the heck, Chris? Why are you putting this on? But I think it's significant. You have the Kansas City Royals at the St. Louis Cardinals. We mentioned the Royals before in 4th place currently, and they are 30-27. Going against a Cardinals team that's 32-24, 3 games back of the mighty Chicago Cubs, who have been a lot better than we expected. They were in the exceeding expectations list. We have Bobich off to a great start, and we called it before. We think he's going to finish top 3 in the Cy Young. The Royals rotation continues to be fantastic from their 2024. The Cardinals are trying to stay away from the rumors of being like, we're just going to give up and trade Ryan Helsley. We're just going to go hunker down and wait another year. So I think this means a lot. Plus, it's an in-state rivalry. It's going to be Yankees at Dodgers, the weekend series of the week. and give me the Royals at the St. Louis Cardinals. Battle of Missouri for that midweek series. I might as well just do series of the week at this point because I'm pretty much doing two every single week. And next we have our power rankings, and at 5, a team that has been sliding at 5-5, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Rotation not been great, dealing with a couple injuries, did DFA a couple guys, but we're expecting more. It's not that the Dodgers are bad. The Dodgers are obviously doing fantastic at 34-22. You just expect more at this point in the year. Chicago Cubs, aforementioned Chicago Cubs, they are 8-2 over their last 10, 35-21, kings of the NL Central, followed by the New York Yankees. New York Yankees, who have been 9-1, just swept those Angels 35-20. Detroit Tigers coming in at number 2, 37-20, 6-4, a little bit slower than they've been recently, but they'll pick it back up. Great rotation, especially a great ace, rather. Just Tigers are really putting together a good team. I think they're really going to turn into a Rays type team here over the next few seasons. And then number 1, making their debut at number 1 on the Dugout Debrief power rankings, 35-19, 8-9, 9-1 over the past 10. Give me those Philadelphia Phillies. Those Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber led Phillies. Got a big series with the Brewers going on this weekend. Then they got Toronto, and then they go to Pittsburgh. They got the Cubs here soon, too, in 2 weeks. So a lot of big games coming up for those Phillies. Dodgers, Cubs, Yankees, Tigers, Phillies here at the end of May for our power rankings. And we're going to go get our trivia question. We're going to get out of here. So last week, what ballpark is famous for ivy in the outfield? This one's easy. Give me Wrigley Field, not the one in California, but the one in the north side of Chicago. And this week, Jason, you better get this one. Who is the Yankees' current main TV announcer for yes? And if you get the radio announcer, bonus points to you. I want to once again thank you for tuning in to Dugout Debrief. I want to thank the Boom Broadcasting family. I want to thank you for watching just like every single week. Big shout out to this channel in general. We got a lot of great content going out. You got quick hits with Shannon. You got 3 from Deep, which I think has been just carrying us here recently, talking about the NBA playoffs. A lot of stuff going on. These 2 guys, especially right now, have been doing really good. So hats off to Shannon and Jason. And with that being said, we're going to get out of here. One more time, thank you for tuning to Dugout Debrief. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games. I'll see you next weekend.